Moses because she freed the slaves, was born sometime in 1820 in Rochester, Maryland. Nobody is sure when her actual birthday was because back then people didn't keep records for slaves. Another one of her nicknames was Minty. Tubman was known as a very strong, smart, and stubborn woman.
As she grew up, she worked for a lady named Miss Susan. She took care of Miss Susan's baby. When the baby cried, Harriet was whipped. When she was 13, her master ordered her to go and stop a slave from escaping. Harriet refused. Her master then threw a large, heavy iron pole at her, making her unconscious for more than 3 days. She almost died. Even when she got better, she still had terrible sleeping spells. This is one of the reasons why the slave owners would not buy her. They did not want or need any weak or ill slaves working in their fields. She always picked apples for her master but could not eat them. One day, when she took a bite of them, she thought her master was not looking. He caught her and whipped her. Harriet was always extremely close to God and said that he was her savior. She would pray to him every day.
In her early years, around the age of 24, Harriet found out about the Underground Railroad from her dad. She's about to be sold down to Georgia, where they are very pro-slavery and strict. Harriet, of course, was against this. She decided to change her fate. Her first goal was to get to Pennsylvania, where slaves were free. She rallied herself and her brothers and escaped into the night. But once they were in the woods, her siblings protested that they were going to get caught and that they wanted to go back. She reluctantly took them home. The next night, she planned escaping. She didn't tell anyone this time for fear of them stopping her. She escaped in the middle of the night and started heading to the railroad. She actually made it through on her first time.
She settled in and got a job as a cook. She started thinking about her family and her loved ones that she had left behind. Harriet was determined to bring them back home with her. She had been through the railroad to get her family 2 times when she found out that her husband had ended up marrying another woman while she was going through the railroad. Even though she was angry, she still took them along on her trip, taking these 2 and others to Canada this time.
Harriet took over 19 trips and 300 slaves on her adventures through the railroad. Some people may not know this, but Harriet played a huge role in the Civil War. She may not have been one of the fighters, but she worked as a cook, nurse, scout, spy, and laundress. On her raid, she freed 800 slaves and destroyed all the supplies in the farm and plantation.
Not only did Tubman believe in African American rights, but she believed in women's rights as well.
In her later years, the Queen of England sent Harriet a silver medal and silk shawl. She also offered for Tubman to visit the Queen in England. Harriet respectfully declined the offer due to her old age and the fact that her sleeping spells had only gotten worse.
When she passed away still helping people. She had a home helping elderly women and men that may have been sick. She also had a home for people who may have needed a place to stay while they got themselves together to get a job because they just came from the Underground Railroad. Harriet also kept a vegetable garden to feed herself, her family, friends, a nurse, cleaning lady, and an orchard nanny. She also grew an apple orchard, sharing the apples with her friends and eating as many as she wanted and she dreamed when she was a child.
Before she died, Harriet gave her elderly home to the Methodist Episcopal Zion Church. Tubman was buried with military rites in Fort Hill Cemetery a year after her death. Auburn declared a one-day memorial to its anti-slavery hero. Residents of the city that day unveiled her the Harriet Tubman plaque, which is still on display in the entrance of the Cayuga Country Courthouse. She also received man honors, including the naming of the Liberty ship Harriet Tubman, christened in 1944 by Eleanor Roosevelt. Freedom Park, tribute to Harriet Tubman, opened in the summer of 1994 in Auburn as well, the same as both the House for the Elderly and Methodist Episcopal Zion Church.
Tubman died on March 10th, 1913, of pneumonia. When she died, she was surrounded by her family and friends, and they sang her favorite spiritual as she's passed on to be with the Lord. Harriet Tubman is a woman that the United States will never forget. She has started something small, and it erupted into something way bigger. Harriet Tubman. 1820 to March 10th, 1913. She was born a slave, but it was freedom she craved. She helped her family and friends until her final end. Many people she would save.